Have you ever asked yourself, if love is supposed to feel so powerful, why does it also feel so fragile? You give your heart, you give your trust, you give your time. You do everything you can to make it work, and yet, somehow, you still find yourself hurting, confused, questioning if what you have is real, or if love is just another illusion we romanticize. I used to think love was about grand gestures and perfect compatibility. I used to believe that if you met the right person, everything would just fall into place. But after 5 years in a real relationship, with all its ups, downs, quiet seasons, breakthroughs, and breakdowns, I've learned that love isn't what we see in movies. It's not what social media shows. It's something far deeper, far more difficult, and far more beautiful. This isn't a list of cute tips or surface-level advice. These are real lessons, hard-earned truths I wish someone had told me before I stepped into love, thinking I knew what I was doing. If you've ever loved someone with your whole heart, if you've ever struggled to keep that connection alive, or if you're just trying to figure out how to make love last in a world where everything feels temporary, this video is for you. Let me share with you 10 love lessons I learned after 5 years in a relationship that you won't hear anywhere else. Lesson 1. Love doesn't always feel like a fairy tale. When we fall in love, we often expect the magic to last forever. The late-night phone calls, the butterflies in your stomach, the electric feeling when their hand touches yours. We assume that love, real love, will always feel like that, like a fairy tale. But here's what 5 years taught me. Love doesn't always feel magical. Sometimes it feels mundane. Sometimes it feels like work. Sometimes it feels like silence. There were weeks, months even, when everything felt flat. When we were both exhausted from life, from work, from expectations. When all we had to give each other was half-hearted, "How was your day?" and shared meals eaten in silence. And in those moments, I wondered, is this love fading, or is this just what long-term love looks like? I used to think those quiet moments were a sign that something was wrong, that maybe the spark had died. But the truth is, real love doesn't need to constantly perform. It's not always supposed to be intense or cinematic. Love, over time, matures into something quieter, something steadier. It becomes a presence, not a performance. And sometimes, that presence looks like folding laundry together on a Sunday, or sitting in the same room, doing different things, yet feeling perfectly at peace. It's the quiet comfort of knowing you don't have to entertain each other. You can just be. That doesn't mean the spark disappears. It means the spark evolves. In our 5th year, I realized that true intimacy wasn't found in dramatic kisses under the rain. It was in the way she looked at me when I didn't notice, in how she remembered the smallest things I said, in how we could laugh over the same inside joke for the 100th time. This isn't what Hollywood sells us. They sell the chase, the climax, the explosive chemistry. But love isn't sustainable at that pace. It's not meant to be a constant high. Because what happens when the high wears off? If you don't understand that love has seasons, just like life, you'll start thinking something's wrong when things slow down. But nothing's wrong. In fact, that's often when love deepens, when it becomes rooted in something more real than fleeting emotions. It becomes a choice, a decision, a commitment to stay, even when it's not thrilling, even when it's boring, even when you're both just trying to get through the week. One of the most important lessons I learned is this: don't mistake peace for boredom. Don't confuse quiet with disconnection. Because the truth is, it's easy to fall in love during the highs. It's beautiful, addictive. But the kind of love that lasts? It's built during the lows, during the normal days, during the moments that no one posts about. So if you're in a season right now where things feel slow, where your relationship isn't filled with fireworks, but it's still full of care, don't panic. That might be the healthiest version of love you've ever experienced. It's not always a fairy tale, but it can be something better, something real. Lesson 2. Communication isn't just talking. It's listening when you want to scream. If there's one lesson that almost cost us everything, it was this. For the first 2 years of our relationship, I thought I was a great communicator. I always spoke my mind. I told her how I felt, what bothered me, what I wanted. I believed that honesty meant I was doing it right. I believed that saying everything I felt, as soon as I felt it, was mature. But I was wrong, because what I called communication was often just emotional dumping. I wasn't talking to understand. I was talking to win. I wasn't listening to her. I was waiting for my turn to respond. I thought volume made me more valid. I thought urgency meant importance. And when emotions ran high, I'd raise my voice, not to hurt her, but because I felt so unheard. But then one night during a fight, she said something that cracked me open. "You speak like you're trying to prove you're right, but you never ask if I'm okay." That sentence echoed in my mind for weeks, because deep down, I knew she was right. I was so focused on expressing myself that I'd stopped trying to understand her. And the sad truth is, you can say all the right things and still make someone feel completely alone. So I started studying the way we talked. I noticed how easily I got defensive, how quickly I turned small concerns into personal attacks, how often I listened just enough to twist her words into a rebuttal. And I began to realize something deeply uncomfortable. Real communication isn't about being heard. It's about creating space for understanding, even when you're hurting. It means sitting in silence while they struggle to find the words. It means biting your tongue when you're dying to interrupt. It means choosing to stay curious rather than jumping to conclusions. And most of all, it means asking questions, not assuming answers. There was a turning point in our 3rd year when everything shifted. We were in the middle of a disagreement, one of those emotionally loaded, hard to unpack kind of moments. Normally, I would have jumped in, pushed my perspective, explained why I was hurt, demanded she see it my way. But this time, I paused. I took a breath, and I asked, "Can you help me understand how that made you feel?" What followed was one of the most vulnerable, honest conversations we'd ever had. She didn't get defensive. I didn't feel attacked. We just understood each other. And for the first time, we were truly on the same side of the problem, not against each other. Here's the truth most people never say. Good communication isn't natural. It's a learned skill. It takes practice, patience, humility, and a deep desire to make the other person feel safe, even when you're angry. We still mess up. Sometimes we talk over each other. Sometimes we assume the worst. But now we know how to return to safety faster, because we learn to prioritize connection over correction. So if you're in a relationship right now where you feel unheard, or where arguments keep going in circles, pause and ask yourself, am I listening to understand, or just waiting to defend? Because in love, it's not about who talks the most. It's about who listens when it's the hardest. That's where trust is built. That's where intimacy lives. And sometimes the most loving thing you can say is nothing at all. Just silent, present, open-hearted attention. Lesson 3. Attraction fades without admiration. Let's be honest. We're all drawn to people physically at first. That initial attraction, that spark, that magnetic pull, it's real, and it matters. But 5 years into a relationship, I've learned something that no one really talks about. Physical attraction fades if you stop admiring who they are. In the beginning, I couldn't stop staring at her. The way she smiled, the way she walked, the sound of her laugh, it all felt like magic. But as time passed, as routines set in and responsibilities piled up, that early electricity began to quiet down. And for a while, I was scared. I wondered if the love was fading. I started questioning our chemistry, doubting myself, doubting her. But then I realized something powerful. I hadn't stopped being attracted to her. I just stopped seeing her fully. I was looking for the fireworks, the newness, the excitement. instead of the strength, the depth, the growth. And so I started paying attention, not just to what was on the surface, but to who she was becoming. I watched her comfort her younger sister through a painful breakup. I saw the way she stayed calm in chaos when our travel plans went wrong. I noticed how she carried grace into rooms that didn't deserve her kindness. And slowly, admiration returned, not just as attraction, but as awe. Because the truth is, long-term attraction is never just about looks. It's about how they think, how they love, how they treat people when no one's watching. It's about who they are when the world isn't clapping. What no one tells you is that beauty, no matter how stunning, becomes familiar over time. And once it does, the only thing that keeps your eyes and heart engaged is admiration. When you admire someone, truly admire them, you don't fall out of love easily. You see them through seasons, flaws, changes, and yet something about them continues to inspire you, to make you proud, to make you feel lucky. But here's the secret. Admiration isn't passive. It doesn't happen by default. You have to look for it. You have to study them the way you did in the beginning, like they're still new, because in many ways, they are. We're all constantly changing. The person you're with today is not the same version of them from last year. So ask yourself, are you keeping up? Are you paying attention to who they're becoming? Or are you stuck loving the idea of who they were? What kept our relationship alive in year 5 wasn't passion or gifts or grand vacations. It was mutual admiration. It was looking at each other and saying, I still see you. I still believe in you. I still choose you. Not just because I love you, but because I respect the hell out of the person you are. That kind of love doesn't fade. It deepens, it evolves. It grows into something far stronger than desire. It grows into partnership. So if you feel the spark fading, don't panic. Look deeper. Get curious again. Ask new questions. Discover new layers. Because when admiration is alive, attraction doesn't have to fight to survive. It flows naturally. And maybe the real question isn't, do I still feel the same way? Maybe it's, am I still seeing who they are, beyond what's easy to notice? Because once you start seeing them fully again, the attraction has a funny way of coming back on its own. Lesson 4, fights don't end relationships. Disrespect. Does every couple fights? Every relationship, no matter how healthy, goes through arguments, tension, disagreements. It's normal. It's even necessary. But here's the lesson that took me the longest to truly understand. Fights don't end relationships. Disrespect does. In our first serious argument, I said something I'll always regret. I didn't yell, I didn't curse, but I was cold, sarcastic, dismissive. I rolled my eyes. I brushed her off mid-sentence. I said things I didn't mean, not to hurt her directly, but to make a point, to win. And I saw it in her face, this quiet pain that didn't come from what I said, but from how I said it. It was the moment she realized I wasn't arguing with her. I was arguing against her. We live in a culture that normalizes toxicity. We romanticize chaos. We see TV couples scream, slam doors, make dramatic exits, and then fall into each other's arms minutes later like it's passion. But real relationships don't work like that. Real relationships require respect, especially in conflict. You can disagree, you can cry, you can walk away to cool down. But the moment you allow name-calling, eye-rolling, mocking, belittling, silent treatment, you're not just fighting, you're slowly eroding the trust that holds everything together. One night, after another exhausting disagreement, she looked at me and said, I don't mind the fights. What hurts is that I don't feel safe with you when you're upset. And that broke me, because I realized it's not the argument that leaves scars, it's how we argue. It's the tone, The intent, the subtle digs, the refusal to listen, the unwillingness to de-escalate. So we made a decision, a boundary, a promise. No fighting to win, no disrespect, ever, not even in anger. We created ground rules. No raising voices unless the house is on fire. No interrupting when the other is being vulnerable. No sarcasm during emotional conversations. And always, always coming back to say, I still love you and we're on the same team. It's not about being perfect. We still have moments. But now, when tension rises, we pause and ask, what's really going on beneath this? Because most fights aren't about what they seem. It's not about the dirty dishes. It's not about the forgotten text. It's about feeling unseen, unheard, unvalued. And when you fight from that place, it's easy to forget you're speaking to someone you love. If there's one thing that has preserved the foundation of our relationship, it's this mindset. I will never treat you like the enemy, even when I feel like one. Because disrespect lingers. It stays long after apologies. It builds walls. It breeds resentment. And once that becomes the norm, love suffocates under the weight of unspoken wounds. So yes, fights will happen. You will disagree. That's human. But if you hold on to mutual respect like a lifeline, even in the heat of conflict, you give your relationship a fighting chance to survive and thrive. The real question isn't, do we fight? It's, can we fight in a way that still honors each other? Because if you can argue without attacking, if you can disagree without destroying, you're not just staying together, you're growing together. Lesson 5. Love can't heal what you refuse to face alone. Before this relationship, I had a belief, one I never said out loud but carried quietly in my heart. If I find the right person, they'll fix what's broken in me. I thought love would fill the emptiness. That being chosen would silence my insecurities. That being loved would finally make me feel enough. And for a while it worked. Her presence was comforting. Her words were reassuring. Her love made me feel whole, temporarily. But then life got hard. Old wounds started resurfacing. Childhood scars, abandonment issues, self-doubt. And every time I felt pain, I reached for her. Every time I felt insecure, I looked to her to calm it. Every time I felt lost, I waited for her to find me. And slowly, I stopped showing up for my own healing. Because somewhere deep down, I was hoping she would do it for me. But here's what love taught me in the rawest, most uncomfortable way. No one, not even the most patient, loving partner, can do your inner work for you. Love can hold you, support you, remind you that you're not alone. But it can't fix wounds that you refuse to face. It can't make peace with your past. It can't reparent your inner child. That's your job. There was a period, around year 3, when we kept clashing over the same issues. I'd shut down emotionally, get distant, feel overwhelmed and disconnected, and then blame her for not understanding me. But the truth was, she wasn't the problem. She was just triggering pain I hadn't dealt with. One night, after an argument that left us both silent and drained, she said softly, "I love you, but I can't keep trying to hold you together when you won't hold yourself." That hit me like a freight train, because I knew she was right. I was asking her to carry wounds that didn't belong to her. And the most painful realization? I was using love as a shield from doing the internal work I feared. So I started going inward. I journaled. I went to therapy. I asked hard questions. I sat with feelings I'd buried for years. And in that process, I realized something beautiful. Healing isn't something you do for your relationship. It's something you do because your relationship deserves the healthiest version of you. When I began taking responsibility for my pain, everything shifted. I became less reactive, less defensive. I stopped expecting her to rescue me emotionally and started learning how to hold space for myself first. And something magical happened. Our relationship grew lighter, more balanced, more peaceful. She no longer felt like my emotional lifeline. She felt like my partner again. Because I wasn't drowning anymore. I was learning how to swim. If you're in love right now and things feel heavy, ask yourself, are you expecting your partner to heal wounds you haven't acknowledged? Are you putting the weight of your past onto the person trying to build a future with you? Because love is not a substitute for self-work. It can amplify your growth, but it can't initiate it. That's yours to own. The truth is, healing is hard. It's slow. It's often lonely. But it's also the most loving thing you can do. Not just for yourself, but for the person who loves you. So don't make them your savior. Make them your supporter. And give them the gift of loving someone who takes their healing seriously. Because when two people take responsibility for their own inner world, the love they build together becomes unshakable. Lesson 6. Intimacy isn't always physical. It's emotional courage. We grow up thinking intimacy means closeness. And for most of us, closeness is measured in physical terms. Holding hands, cuddling, kissing, sex. That's what movies show us. That's what society tells us is intimacy. But 5 years into a relationship, I learned something that changed everything for me. Intimacy isn't how close your bodies are. It's how open your hearts are. There were times when we were physically together, sitting beside each other on the couch, lying in bed, sharing space. But emotionally, we were miles apart. Smiling outside, silent inside. Holding hands, yet withholding thoughts. And the distance didn't come from lack of affection. It came from fear. Fear of being fully seen. I remember one night, early in our 3rd year, she asked me, "What are you most afraid of right now?" And I paused. Not because I didn't have an answer, but because I did. And it terrified me. I was afraid of failure. Afraid of being a disappointment. Afraid that one day she'd wake up and realize I wasn't enough. But I didn't say any of that. Instead, I said, "I don't know. I'm fine." Because vulnerability felt like weakness. I thought that if I opened up too much, she'd lose respect for me. That being strong meant being silent. But love doesn't grow in silence. It suffocates there. So I tried something different. I told her the truth. I shared the fear, the insecurity, the hidden thoughts I had always pushed down. I spoke the unspoken and waited. She didn't flinch. She didn't run. She just looked at me with soft eyes and said, "Thank you for letting me in." That night, something shifted. I felt more seen than I ever had in my life. And that's when I realized true intimacy is emotional courage. The willingness to let someone see the parts of you you'd rather keep hidden. It's not easy. In fact, it's terrifying. Because when you share your wounds, your doubts, your messy, unfiltered thoughts, there's always a risk. A risk they won't understand. A risk they'll judge. A risk they'll leave. But without that risk, there's no real closeness, only performance. We live in a time where it's easy to confuse exposure with vulnerability. We overshare online, post our highlights, tell stories for applause. But vulnerability isn't about being seen by everyone. It's about being fully known by someone. And that requires trust, safety, time. It also requires breaking generational patterns, especially for those of us who were raised to suppress emotions, to be strong, to stay guarded. But here's the truth. The strongest thing you can do in love is let someone in, especially when every part of you wants to shut down. Over the years, I've come to learn her fears, her traumas, her past, not all at once, but in pieces, little by little, as trust grew. And every time she opened up, it wasn't weakness I saw. It was bravery. It made me love her more, not less. Now, intimacy for us doesn't always look romantic. Sometimes it's a hard conversation. Sometimes it's crying on the kitchen floor. Sometimes it's saying, "I don't know how to fix this, but I want to figure it out with you." That's real closeness. That's intimacy. So if you feel like something's missing in your relationship right now, ask yourself, when was the last time you said something that scared you? When was the last time you truly let them in? Because bodies can touch without hearts connecting. But when two hearts open, even slightly, it's more powerful than anything physical. Love doesn't just want your smiles, it wants your truth. And the more of that you share, the stronger your bond becomes. Lesson 7. The small things matter more than big gestures. In the beginning, I thought love was measured in big moments, the surprise trips, the handwritten letters, the elaborate dates and grand declarations. And don't get me wrong, those moments are beautiful. They create memories. They sweep you off your feet. They light up Instagram stories and feel like scenes from a movie. But over time, I realized something I never expected. It's the small things, the invisible, unrecorded moments that shape the foundation of love. I can barely remember the gifts we gave each other in year 1. I don't remember what we wore on our 2nd anniversary, but I do remember the night she waited up for me, just to make sure I got home safely. I remember the time she made me soup when I was too tired to ask for help. I remember her sliding her hand into mine at the funeral when I couldn't speak. Those moments weren't flashy. They weren't photographed. They weren't even planned. But they were unforgettable, because love, real love, is built in the day-to-day, in the quiet check-ins, the thoughtful texts, the way you remember their coffee order without asking, the way you instinctively reach for their hand when crossing the street. Those tiny actions, done consistently, not perfectly, become a language of care, a rhythm of reliability, a quiet, persistent reminder that says, I see you, I think of you, I choose you. Early on, I used to pressure myself to do more, to wow her, impress her, surprise her. But what truly moved her heart wasn't the big surprises. It was when I noticed the things no one else did. When I remembered how certain songs made her feel. When I put my phone down and gave her my undivided attention. When I said, I believe in you, before she walked into a stressful meeting. We live in a world that glorifies grand gestures. Valentine's Day, birthday getaways, flashy proposals. And while those have their place, the danger is this. When we chase the big moments, we can forget to show up in the small ones. The truth is, love doesn't die from a lack of extravagance. It dies from a lack of daily tenderness. It dies when you stop saying thank you. When you stop asking, how was your day, really? When you assume they already know they're loved, instead of showing them in the tiniest, most consistent ways. I once asked a couple married for 40 years what kept them together. They didn't mention romance or compatibility. They just said, we never stopped doing the little things. A cup of tea in the morning, a kiss before bed, a hand on the back when words didn't work. That answer stayed with me, because that's what love becomes over time. Not fireworks, but a slow burning flame. A warmth you can count on. A comfort that's earned, not just felt. So if you're in love right now, don't wait for the next holiday to show it. Don't wait for the perfect occasion to express it. Love them in the mundane. Love them in the in-between. Love them in the unnoticed, ordinary moments, because that's where the real magic is. Ask yourself, what's one small thing I can do today to quietly remind them that I'm still here, still present, still choosing this love? Because in the end, it's not the loudest gestures that make love last. It's the quiet ones, whispered through consistency, tenderness, and time. Lesson 8. Loving someone isn't the same as knowing how to love. There was a moment, about 2 years into our relationship, when she looked at me and said, I know you love me, but sometimes it feels like you don't know how to love me. At first I was defensive. How could she say that? I did everything I could. I showed up, I cared, I was loyal. I said I love you every single day. But that one sentence haunted me. Not because it was unfair, but because deep down, I knew it was true. Loving someone and knowing how to love them are two entirely different things. I was loving her from my blueprint, my default. I gave what I wanted to receive. I offered solutions when she needed empathy. I gave space when she needed closeness. I used logic when she needed emotional connection. I thought I was being loving, but she didn't always feel loved. And that distinction, it changed everything for me. Because real love isn't just about giving, it's about learning. Learning them, their heart, their language, their wounds, their patterns, their fears, their needs. We often assume that love should come naturally, that if it's real, we'll just know how to meet each other's needs. But the truth is, most of us are loving with tools we never upgraded. We're using outdated maps, old habits, borrowed advice. And then we wonder why, despite how hard we try, something still feels off. So I began to study her, not in the creepy, over-analyzing way, but with intentional curiosity. I paid attention to when she lit up and when she shut down. I started asking better questions. What makes you feel most seen? What do I do that unintentionally hurts you? What's your emotional love language when you're overwhelmed? And slowly, I began to see the difference between intention and impact. I might intend to help her feel supported, but if my words land like judgment, the impact is pain. I might intend to show love, but if it comes in a form she can't recognize, it's as if I never gave it at all. Loving well requires translation. It requires humility. It requires the willingness to ask, how can I love you better, and mean it. It also requires letting go of pride. There were times I felt like I was doing everything right, and still she felt disconnected. And I had to learn that love isn't about being right. It's about being effective, about being open, about being available in the way they need, not just the way you prefer to give. It goes both ways too. She learned that when I retreat during stress, I'm not withdrawing out of coldness. I'm gathering myself so I don't explode. She learned that physical touch calms my anxiety more than words ever could. She learned that encouragement, not advice, helps me feel capable. It took time, mistakes, gentle corrections. But eventually, we both began to understand. Loving someone isn't about molding them to fit your version of love. It's about meeting them where they are and building something together that honors you both. Love is not one size fits all. It's not static. It's dynamic. It grows, evolves, deepens. And every season of love asks a new question. Are you still willing to learn me? So if you're in a relationship where the love feels real, but the connection feels shaky, ask yourself, am I loving them the way I would want to be loved, or the way they need to be loved? Because when you start loving someone in their language, not yours, they don't just feel loved, they feel understood. And that, more than anything, is what makes love last. Lesson 9. Growth is the oxygen of long-term love. In the first year, everything felt alive. Every conversation was new, every discovery exciting. We were learning each other, our stories, our habits, our pasts, our dreams. And that discovery brought energy, movement, passion. But by the 4th year, something changed. Not in a dramatic, catastrophic way, but in a subtle, quiet way. The kind that creeps in when you're not paying attention. We stopped asking questions. We stopped dreaming out loud. We got comfortable. Then we got complacent. And I began to realize something unsettling. Love doesn't die from conflict. It dies from stagnation. Most people think relationships end because of betrayal or distance or incompatible values. And sometimes that's true. But more often they fade because one or both people stop growing, individually or together. We assume that once we have each other, the work is done. But that mindset is a slow death sentence for love. Because the truth is, the person you're in love with today is not going to be the same person 5 years from now. And neither are you. If you don't continue to explore each other, your evolving dreams, fears, values, you'll wake up one day and realize you're lying next to a stranger. Not because they changed, but because you stopped being curious about who they're becoming. We had to face this. There were weeks where we functioned like roommates. We did the chores, split the bills, shared a bed. But we weren't emotionally connected. We weren't inspiring each other anymore. And one night, after another week of numb routine, she looked at me and said, "I don't want us to just survive this season. I want us to grow through it." It hit me. Love, like anything alive, needs oxygen. And in relationships, oxygen looks like growth. Growth in communication, growth in self-awareness, growth in empathy, in patience, in goals, in dreams. So we started doing the work again. We read books together. We scheduled no distraction check-in nights. We got uncomfortable, asking each other, "What do you need more of right now?" Or, "What have I stopped seeing in you that used to matter?" And slowly, we came back to life. Not because the spark magically reappeared, but because we both made a decision. We won't stop becoming. We won't stop learning. We won't stop building. Not just the relationship, but ourselves. Because a healthy relationship is not two perfect people. It's two people committed to evolving in the same direction. You don't have to grow at the same pace. You don't have to change in the same ways. But if one of you is constantly reaching for more meaning, more depth, more purpose, and the other is standing still, tension builds, resentment grows, and love slowly suffocates. So we started to dream again. Not big, dramatic dreams, just simple ones. New habits, new hobbies, future trips, personal goals, business plans, and we included each other in the process. That's when I realized partnership isn't just about supporting each other's past. It's about investing in each other's future. If your relationship feels stagnant right now, don't panic. Ask, where have we stopped growing? What parts of ourselves are we neglecting? How can we water this love again? Because just like a garden, love doesn't need perfect conditions to thrive. It just needs attention, effort, and the willingness to evolve. Lesson 10. Love is a daily choice, not a constant feeling. I used to think that once you found the right person, love would just sustain itself. That once the connection was strong enough, once the chemistry was undeniable, love would naturally stay alive. That if it started with fire, it would burn forever. But after 5 years together, here's what I know now. Love isn't something that stays alive on its own. It's something you choose, again and again, every single day. There are days I wake up overflowing with affection, when I can't wait to hold her, to hear her voice, to share something I learned. Days when I feel lucky, lit up, inspired just by her presence. And then there are days when I feel disconnected, when life gets heavy, when stress, fatigue, or old insecurities cloud everything, when I don't feel in love, but I still choose to love. That's the difference. Feelings are fleeting. They rise and fall with our moods, hormones, environment, and energy. But choices? They're powerful. They're anchored in values. They're what keep the ship steady when the waves get rough. Love, at its core, is not a feeling we fall into. It's a decision we rise into. It's saying, I will still be kind when I'm frustrated. I will still show up when I'm tired. I will still speak gently, even when my patience runs thin. I will still choose you, even on the days when loving you feels harder than usual. It's easy to love when things are light and effortless. It's beautiful to feel in sync, to laugh, to flirt, to touch. But the love that lasts, the love that becomes legacy, is the love that keeps showing up when it would be easier to shut down. There were seasons when everything felt off, when we were out of rhythm, when misunderstandings piled up, when nothing seemed to click. And in those moments I wondered, are we losing it? But what saved us wasn't a big talk or a romantic weekend. It was the small, deliberate choice to stay engaged, to stay curious, to stay kind, even when it didn't feel urgent or easy. And slowly, through all the friction, we remembered something. Real love is not proven by how good it feels. It's proven by how loyal it remains. It's in the checking in, even when they seem fine. It's in the soft tone, even when you're angry. It's in the effort, even when you think they should already know. It's in the choice to keep becoming a better partner, not for applause, but because love deserves your best. I used to think falling in love was the most beautiful part, but I've changed my mind. The most beautiful part is staying in love, choosing to stay, choosing to grow, choosing to love again, especially on the days when it's harder to. So if you're in a relationship and you're wondering why the feelings aren't as strong as they once were, ask yourself, when was the last time I actively chose love rather than just expecting it to be there? Because the most extraordinary relationships are not made by perfect people. They're made by two flawed, evolving humans who wake up each day and say, I still choose you. 5 years. 10 lessons. 1,000 moments that shape the way I understand love. Not as a perfect story, but as a living, breathing journey. If you've made it this far, I hope you see now. Love isn't about finding the perfect person. It's about becoming the right person for the one you choose. It's about listening when it's hard, showing up when it's inconvenient, adapting when growth demands it, and choosing, not just once at the beginning, but daily, even when it's messy, quiet, or uncertain. We're told that love is a feeling, but real love is so much more than that. It's a quiet commitment, stitched together by thousands of small moments that no one claps for. It's folding laundry together. It's sitting in silence without feeling pressure to fill it. It's holding space when your partner breaks. It's apologizing first. It's asking, how can I love you better today? And meaning it. The truth is, love doesn't always feel like magic. But when it's built with care, when it's watered with patience, when it's rooted in mutual growth, it becomes something even greater than magic. It becomes home. So if you're in love, or longing for it, or healing from it, remember this. You're not meant to get it all right. You're meant to stay open, stay humble, and keep learning. Because love isn't a destination, it's a classroom. And if you're willing to pay attention, it will teach you everything you need to grow. Now I'll leave you with one final question. Which of these lessons do you feel most deeply right now? And what is love trying to teach you in this season of your life? Let's talk in the comments. I'll be reading every word. Thank you for being here. And if this video touched your heart, don't keep it to yourself. Someone you care about might need it more than you know. Until next time, keep choosing love. One quiet, brave moment at a time. If this video spoke to your heart, even just one part of it, I want to invite you to stay connected. Subscribe to Raidespire, because this is just the beginning. We're building a space here for growth, healing, deep conversations, and the kind of love most people never talk about, but deeply need. Drop a comment below and let me know which lesson hit you the hardest, or share your own. Your words might be exactly what someone else needs to read today. And if someone you care about is navigating love, heartbreak, or self-discovery, share this video with them. Don't underestimate the power of one message, one moment, one reminder that love is still worth learning, still worth choosing, still worth fighting for. This isn't just a channel, it's a movement, and we're just getting started. So subscribe, comment, share, let's grow together.